Hey there, friend. Have you ever caught yourself wondering why your energy feels a little slower these days? Maybe you're not bouncing back from a busy day quite like you used to, or you've noticed little changes in your body that make you think, what's next? If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. In fact, I'd bet most of us over 70, or getting close to it, have had those moments. But here's the good news. Science is giving us clues about what really shapes how long and how well we live. And guess what? Some of the biggest secrets aren't about fancy pills or extreme diets. They're right in front of us, hiding in plain sight, in our daily choices, our habits, even the way we connect with others. Today we're diving into something I think you'll find both fascinating and empowering. The signs that can actually predict how long you'll live after 70. And not just predictions. This is about control. Because the best part? Many of these signs aren't set in stone. They're things we can nurture, adjust, and grow. So whether you're looking to add years to your life to your years, or both, stick around. We'll walk through this together, step by step. Let's start with something simple, but powerful. Imagine this. You wake up, step outside, and take a walk around the block. Not a race, just a gentle stroll. Maybe you're admiring the flowers, waving at a neighbor, or thinking about what you'll have for lunch. That daily movement, it's not just about staying limber. Studies show that older adults who stay physically active, even in small ways, are significantly more likely to live longer, healthier lives. In fact, one major study followed thousands of people over 70 and found that those who walked just 30 minutes a day had a 50% lower risk of early death compared to those who stayed sedentary. 50%. That's huge. But wait, you might be thinking, I'm not exactly an athlete. Don't worry, this isn't about running marathons. It's about finding movement that feels good. Maybe it's gardening, dancing to your favorite tunes in the kitchen, or stretching while you watch the morning news. The key is consistency. One woman I spoke to, Joyce, turned 78 last month. She told me she never considered herself active until she started taking water aerobics classes twice a week. Now, she says she sleeps better, her joints feel looser, and she's even made new friends. That's the ripple effect of staying mobile. It touches everything. All right, so physical activity is one piece of the puzzle. Let's talk about another one that might surprise you. Your social life. Yes, really. Think about the people in your corner, the ones who check in on you, laugh with you, maybe even drive you a little crazy sometimes. Turns out, those connections are like fuel for your health. Researchers have found that strong social ties can be as protective as quitting smoking when it comes to longevity. One study tracked older adults for over a decade and discovered that those with regular face-to-face interactions had a 26% lower risk of dying during the study period. Why? Well, staying connected keeps your mind sharp, reduces stress hormones, and even encourages healthier habits. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. I'm not much of a social butterfly. That's okay. Building connections doesn't mean you need a crowd. It's about quality, not quantity. Maybe it's a weekly coffee date with a neighbor, joining a book club, or volunteering at a local shelter. Even chatting with the cashier at your favorite grocery store can count. My Uncle Frank, who's 81, started volunteering at a community garden after his wife passed. He says the routine gives him purpose, and he's met folks who've become like family. So here's the takeaway. Movement and connection aren't just nice to have. They're foundational, and the best part? You don't have to overhaul your life overnight. Start small. Take a walk tomorrow morning. Send a text to a friend you haven't talked to in a while. These tiny steps add up. But you know what? There's even more to this story. Another sign that predicts longevity has to do with something we often overlook until it's gone. Can you guess what it is? Earlier, we talked about how movement and connection can shape your longevity. But here's something you might not have considered. Your grip strength. Yes, how firmly you can hold on to things, like a grocery bag, a railing, or even a handshake, is actually one of the most reliable indicators of how well your body is aging. Now, I know that sounds a little odd. Why would grip strength matter so much? Well, think of it as a kind of check engine light for your overall health. When your grip weakens, It often signals that other systems in your body, your muscles, bones, even your heart, are starting to slow down. A massive study published in The Lancet followed hundreds of thousands of people across 17 countries. The results were clear. For every 5-kilogram decrease in grip strength, the risk of early death increased by 16%. That's not just about dropping your keys more often, it's about your body's resilience. The good news? You can strengthen your grip at any age. No, you don't need fancy equipment. Try this. Take a small towel, roll it up, and squeeze it tightly for 10 seconds. Release, repeat 10 times. Do this a few times a day, and you'll start noticing a difference. Or grab a stress ball, those squishy ones you see on desks, and give it a good squeeze while you're watching TV. Simple, right? My neighbor Helen, who's 72, started doing this after her doctor mentioned her grip was weaker than average. Now she jokes that she could crush walnuts with her bare hands. And more importantly, she feels steadier on her feet too. But here's the thing. Your body's strength isn't just about what you can do, it's also about how you feel inside. And that brings me to another surprising predictor of longevity, your mindset. Specifically, how optimistic you are about the future. Now I know what some of you might be thinking, optimism? Isn't that just a personality trait? But research shows it's more than that. In fact, a study from Harvard followed older adults for over a decade and found that those who maintained a sense of hope and positivity had significantly lower rates of heart disease, cancer, and even mobility issues. One group, in particular, stood out. People who believed they'd still be active and engaged in life at 80 or 90. Their odds of living longer were much higher than those who assumed their best days were behind them. So how do you cultivate optimism if it doesn't come naturally? Start small. Each morning, write down one thing you're looking forward to, no matter how tiny. Maybe it's a phone call with a grandchild, a walk in the park, or even just a favorite cup of coffee. This practice rewires your brain to focus on the positive, which in turn reduces stress hormones like cortisol. And lower cortisol means less inflammation, better sleep, and a stronger immune system. Take my friend George, who turned 75 last year. He'd been feeling stuck in a rut, worrying about his health. His daughter suggested he start a gratitude journal. At first he rolled his eyes, but now he says it's his favorite part of the day. It's like finding little treasures, he told me. I've started noticing things I never paid attention to before, like how the light looks through the trees in the morning. And guess what? His energy has bounced back, and he's even taken up painting. Now let's shift gears a bit. Another sign that's gaining attention in longevity science is something you might not associate with aging at all: your ability to hear clearly. I mean, sure, hearing loss is common as we get older, but did you know it's also linked to a higher risk of dementia and social isolation? A study from Johns Hopkins found that people with untreated hearing loss were twice as likely to develop dementia compared to those with normal hearing. Why? Because when you can't follow conversations, your brain works overtime trying to fill in the gaps. Over time, that strain can accelerate cognitive decline. Plus, if you're struggling to hear, you might start avoiding social situations altogether, cutting yourself off from the very connections we talked about earlier. The solution: don't shrug off hearing changes. If you find yourself asking people to repeat themselves more often, or if music sounds muffled, talk to your doctor. Modern hearing aids are far more advanced than they used to be. Many can connect to your phone, adjust automatically to different environments, and even double as fitness trackers. And if cost is a concern, there are more affordable options now than ever before. My cousin's mother-in-law, Evelyn, resisted getting hearing aids for years. She said they looked clunky and didn't want to admit she needed them. But once she finally tried a pair, she was stunned. It's like the world came back to life, she said. I can hear the birds again. I can hear my granddaughters laugh. And now she's joined a local theater group and volunteers at a library. All because she took that one step. All right, so to recap: grip strength, optimism, and hearing health. 3 signs that might seem unrelated but all play a role in how long and how well we live. And the beauty of these? They're not fixed. They're things we can work on, improve, and even reverse. But here's another piece of the puzzle, one that's often overlooked, especially by folks who've lived full, busy lives. It has to do with how you rest. Not just sleep, though that's part of it, but something deeper, something that happens when you allow yourself to truly slow down. Let's dive into that next, because if you've ever dismissed rest as lazy or unproductive, you might be surprised to learn just how vital it is for your longevity. We were talking about rest, and not just sleep, but the kind of deep intentional slowing down that lets your body and mind recharge. Now I know some of you might be thinking, rest? Isn't that just code for lying around? But here's the truth. Rest isn't laziness, it's medicine, and science agrees. Studies show that people who regularly take breaks, whether it's a midday nap, a quiet hour with a book, or even just stepping outside for fresh air, are less likely to develop chronic inflammation, which is linked to everything from heart disease to Alzheimer's. One fascinating study followed older adults for 10 years and found that those who prioritized downtime had lower levels of stress hormones and even stronger immune responses. So what does this look like in real life? It's not about drastic changes. Maybe it's 20 minutes of sitting in a sunbeam with your eyes closed after lunch, or taking a few slow walks without rushing anywhere. My friend Margaret, who's 79, used to push through every day like she was running a race. Then her doctor gently nudged her to prescribe herself rest. Now? She takes a short nap most afternoons, sits quietly with her cat in the evenings, and swears she's more energized than she's been in years. I used to think rest meant I was giving up, she told me. Turns out, it's how I keep going. Now let's talk about something we all interact with daily, your plate. What you eat might not seem like a predictor of longevity, but research says otherwise. And it's not about strict diets or cutting out all your favorites. It's about patterns. For example, the Mediterranean diet, rich in vegetables, healthy fats, whole grains, and lean proteins, has been consistently linked to longer, healthier lives. One study published in BMJ found that older adults who followed this style of eating had a 25% lower risk of early death compared to those who didn't. Why? Because it fights inflammation, supports brain health, and keeps your heart strong. But here's the secret. You don't have to overhaul your meals overnight. Start with small swaps. Instead of fried potatoes, try roasted sweet potatoes drizzled with olive oil. Swap processed snacks for a handful of almonds or fresh berries. And if you're not a fan of fish, try beans or lentils. They're packed with protein and fiber. My Uncle Joe, who's 83, used to live on sandwiches and soup. After his daughter introduced him to Greek salads and avocado toast, he said, "I didn't realize food could taste this good and make me feel this good." And now he's the one teaching his grandkids how to cook. All right, so we've covered movement, connection, grip strength, optimism, hearing health, rest, and nutrition. But here's another one you might not expect. How curious you stay. Yes, your brain's hunger for new experiences actually plays a role in longevity. A study from the University of Edinburgh followed older adults for over a decade and discovered that those who engaged in mentally stimulating activities, like learning a new skill, reading, or even doing puzzles, had slower rates of cognitive decline and lived longer, healthier lives. Why? Because curiosity keeps your brain nimble, which in turn supports everything from memory to emotional resilience. So how do you stay curious? Think of it as mental gardening. Maybe it's picking up a hobby you've always wanted to try, like painting or gardening, or diving into a subject you know nothing about, like astronomy or birdwatching. Even learning how to use a new app or gadget counts. My neighbor Alice, who's 76, decided to take an online photography class during lockdown. Now she's the go-to photographer for her church events and says her confidence has soared. "I used to think my best learning days were behind me," she told me. Turns out they're just getting started. And finally, let's touch on something deeper. Your sense of purpose. This isn't about grand missions or saving the world. It's about knowing what matters to you and finding ways to show up for it, no matter your age. Researchers have found that having a clear sense of purpose, whether it's caring for a loved one, volunteering, or creating something, can add years to your life. One study published in JAMA Psychiatry revealed that older adults who felt their lives had meaning had a 50% lower risk of dying during the study period. And here's the best part. Purpose doesn't have to be flashy. It could be as simple as tending to a garden, writing letters to old friends, or sharing stories with younger generations. Take my friend Henry, who turned 80 last year. After retiring, he struggled with feeling invisible. Then he started tutoring kids at a local library twice a week. It's not just about helping them read better, he said. It's about showing up, being needed, and remembering that I still have something to give. And now, he's got a whole group of young fans who light up when they see him. All right, let's take a step back for a moment. We've covered a lot: movement, connection, grip strength, optimism, hearing health, rest, nutrition, curiosity, and purpose. But here's the beauty. These aren't separate puzzle pieces. They overlap, support each other, and create a web of habits that help you thrive. When you move your body, you boost your mood. When you connect with others, you build resilience. When you eat well, you fuel your curiosity. It's all connected. And the best news? You don't have to tackle everything at once. Start with one small step. Maybe a walk tomorrow, a phone call to a friend, or adding a new vegetable to your plate. Progress, not perfection, is what counts. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you noticed any changes in your energy or health after adopting new habits? Maybe you found a trick that works for you that we didn't mention. Drop a comment below. Let's learn from each other. And if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. We've got more conversations like this coming up, all designed to help you live your strongest, fullest life. Here's the thing. Age is just a number, and the choices you make today, no matter your age, can shape the years ahead. So let's make them count. Here's to living your best life, one step, one meal, one conversation at a time. You've got this.